My name is Stephanie McGillivray, and I'm the officer promoting women's leadership here at Caritas Internationalis. And we will be starting properly very shortly. We're just sorting a problem with our streaming very quickly, and we will be right with you. So in the meantime, thank you very much for joining us, and we will begin the session in just a few moments. Thanks.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everyone. In a few minutes, we will start the webinar. Please allow me just to welcome and greet Sister Raffaella Petrini, Secretary General of the Governorate in the Vatican City. Buon pomeriggio, Suor Raffaella, grazie per essere con noi.
Grazie a voi dell'invito.
Grazie, è un grande piacere, un grande onore per noi. La benvenuta, anche se oggi solo virtualmente.
Grazie. Veramente è un piacere e una gioia. È una delle poche interviste che ho, poche conferences, pochi interventi pubblici che ho accolto, perché grande stima e grande affetto per il lavoro anche di Caritas. Quindi.
Grazie. Sister Raffaella was sharing with us the joy and the happiness to be with us today for this initiative, for this important initiative in the month of March.
Mm-hmm.
I take also this opportunity to welcome Marta Skretenberger, Secretary General of Caritas Norway and Chair of the Women's Committee at Caritas Internationalis. Good afternoon, Marta. Welcome. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everyone. We start this last webinar for the month of March. This webinar is part of the initiatives of Caritas Internationalis. Caritas celebrates women working together for equality, encounter, and renewal. This initiative was for the whole month of March. And today is the last event for that initiative. Just to summarize what we have done up till now, 4 webinars have been organized by Caritas Internationalis around the theme Women as Builders of Dialogue, Hope, Solidarity, and Future. The first webinar has been organized in cooperation with the British Embassy to the Holy See, and has been focused on the role of women in dialogue for peace, dialogue in the communities, for the communities, and within the communities. The second one had a very important and actual topic concerning especially migration and the role of women, both in welcoming and accompanying migrants, but also the challenges that women have to face when they are forced to flee countries where they live. And we had important and really emotional testimonies from Ukraine and neighboring countries regarding the Ukrainian crisis that we all are living now. The third webinar last week has been focused on the topic of solidarity and caring for the poor and for our common home. And in the occasion of the World Water Day, we had a reflection on the role of women to protect our common home and also to sensitize communities at local, regional, and global level on the importance of protecting the environment. Today, in a certain sense, is the moment where we wrap up and we summarize all the elements and the reflection, the witnesses that we had up till now, and also we look at a future perspective, what will be the way forward. That's why the title of the webinar of today is Women as Builder of Future. We will start from the perspective of the Catholic social teaching, so the foundation of our service to the poor, and we will go to see what we can do to promote women's participation and leadership at all levels. We will have also, as anticipated in the program, the presentation of the first results of 2 surveys that we conducted at the level of the CI General Secretariat and the regional secretariats, and to whom we had a high participation of the member organization. We will see what is the situation of our Confederation regarding the participation of women and women in leadership position. I'm going straight into the program of today. We will start and I welcome her a few minutes ago with the keynote speaker, Reverend Sister Raffaella Petrini, Secretary General of the Governorate at the Vatican City. And I take again the opportunity to thank her for being with us this afternoon. Thank you very much, Sister Raffaella. We will have later on some witnesses from the Confederation. With the testimonies will be shared by Sister Regina Ignazia Afla, Coordinator for Human Rights and Justice of Caritas Ghana, and also reference person in the Africa region for women's leadership and participation. We will have also an important testimony from Kyrgyzstan, from Caritas Kyrgyzstan. The director, Marina Osmonalieva, will share with us her experience as a woman in a leadership position. After that, we will have the presentation of the result of the Caritas surveys that I just mentioned a few minutes ago. We have conducted 2 surveys in the last 4 weeks. The first one concerned the women participation in our structures, in our institutions. And we try to have a database for looking at the present situation and also to reflect about the future and how we can strengthen the participation of women in our structures, but also the leadership of women in our institutions. And the second survey is more, let me say, about how women and men feel and see the participation of women in the life of the Confederation. Stephanie McGillivray, our resource person, our officers for promoting women's leadership, will present to us the first result. Then we will share with the Confederation the full report of these surveys together with the report of this long monthly initiative. And we will have the pleasure to have the conclusion of Marta Skretenberger, Secretary General of Caritas Norway, and also Chair of the CI Women's Leadership, Equality and Participation Committee. Together with me at the General Secretariat today, there are Stephanie McGillivray, the person in charge for promoting women's leadership, and Marta Petrosillo, the Director of Communication of Caritas Internationalis. I take this opportunity before giving the floor to Sister Raffaella to thank also the interpreters. We have translation in French and Spanish as well. So for those who want to use the French and the Spanish translation, you can use the system in Zoom. And I thank also all colleagues of the communication and internal services departments who have collaborated with us for the organization of these webinars. So it's my pleasure to introduce Sister Raffaella Petrini. Sister Raffaella, on November 2021, has been appointed by Pope Francis as a Secretary General of the Governorate at the Vatican City. And she's a member of the Franciscan Sisters of the Eucharist. And since 2005, she has served as an official at the Congregation for the Evangelization of People. And she has a degree in political science from the Luis University in Rome, also a Master of Science Organization Behavior at the Barney Schools of Business at the University of Hartford in the United States, and a doctorate in social sciences from the Pontifical University of St. Thomas d'Aquinas at the Angelicum University, where she's also currently a professor. It's our pleasure to have Sister Raffaella with us as keynote speaker today. Sister Raffaella, thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. As I said, it's a pleasure to be with you today. I would like to address the topic of feminine leadership within the Church by starting with the perspective of the latest social encyclical Fratelli Tutti, which reiterates how at the very core of Catholic social teaching, which is really my area of expertise, lies the concept of fraternity, deriving its fundamental essence from the common origin of each human being created in the image and likeness of the Creator. So men and women both participate, contribute, and share in this universal fraternity. And the Christian social message offers a universal vision of the life of men and women, which is characterized by a fundamental interdependence that is based upon deep bonds of unity beyond difference, coming from membership in the same human family. And this membership naturally leads them to work together in political and economic organizations, but also to cooperate in the search for the common good. These ethics of fraternity make space for places and relationships, I believe, that are not dominated by a mere logic of profit. So gratuity, care, capacity for reciprocity, and self-gift, can enhance new forms of socialization and collaboration, which are apt to promote integral human development, that is, the development of the person in the multidimensional reality of his or her body and soul. So my premise today is that this kind of fraternity is a constitutive dimension of the human being, which is rooted in his or her ontological structure. And Catholic social teaching has always reiterated that men and women share the same equal dignity, which descends from their common transcendent origin. Indeed, through their capacity for self-gift and sexual union, not only can they equally serve life and participate in God's act of creation, but they are equally entrusted with the task of ordering created nature according to his design. Therefore, they are both subjects of their work. They share in the subjective and ethical dimension of their labor. And they are both the primary basis of the value of work and equally expected to perform their activities in a way that is beneficial to and properly recognized by society itself. At the same time, they are both equally invited to contribute to by their natural talents and acquired skills to the realization in history of the divine plan for the present and for the future. Finally, by responding to their own specific vocation in life, including a vocation to religious life, of course, they equally assume, and I like this expression very much that is used by Pope John Paul II in Mulieris Dignitatem, a common responsibility for the destiny of humanity. Nevertheless, the unity of the human family does not overshadow individual identities and their uniqueness. On the contrary, it should make men and women more transparent, says Pope Francis, to one another, and connect more closely in their diversity. And this is an expression, again, used by Benedict XVI, actually, in Caritas in Veritate. In this sense, we see sacred scripture referring to God, as you very well know, in an anthropomorphic way, with expression that attribute to him both masculine and feminine qualities. And these latter more properly define a woman's capacity for maternity, the essence of the feminine mystery, according to John Paul II. So, a woman's capacity for maternity, the essence of the feminine mystery. More recently, actually, Pope Francis very insightfully synthesized the elements that make up the femininity so necessary to the church and to the world. That is the courage to face difficulties, the capacity for being practical, a natural desire to promote what is most beautiful and human according to God's plan, and a far-sighted prophetic vision of the world and of history that make women sources of hope and builders of the future. Thus, I think it is precisely through their distinctive qualities that women live out the relational and social dimension of their human nature. They participate in social life and in the so-called sphere of friendship through the material reality of their bodies and through the peculiar differences of their corporeality. That is why, as reaffirmed multiple times by Pope Francis, equality of dignity does not necessarily signify equality of function, which might level actually specific gifts and characteristics. On the contrary, it is precisely in their legitimate diversity that women experience the three fundamental and closely intertwined relationships upon which human life is grounded: with God, with one's neighbor, and with the earth. And fraternity unfolds through these relationships and in turn is shaped by them. Going back to the social encyclical, Fratelli Tutti, I believe a model is proposed by Pope Francis to build fraternity, a model that women can adopt and develop in their leadership roles. The model is, I believe, the evangelical parable of the Good Samaritan. Even and especially in positions of leadership, care can be proposed as a guiding principle for discernment and decision-making. Women leaders, I believe, bring this fact to the forefront in some ways, in different ways, really. This paradigm of care, although is not exclusive of women, I don't mean to say that at all. However, is an alternative way of thinking that complements the traditionally masculine orientation towards justice. And here, you can see, I am reflecting on the thinking of the ethicists of care that I have been studying through my academic career. Care is a prevalently feminine attitude insofar as women are naturally structured to care for life in its early stages, called to nurture it and bring it to full development within their own bodies. So women are called in a particular way, I believe, to respond to this call through action, whether in the family or in any other organization, including the church. From a feminine perspective, caring relations contribute to building relationships of trust and reciprocity that are at the core of social friendship. A friendship that is fixed on the worth of every human person and thus is naturally open to dialogue. Therefore, the concept of care can take various shapes within an organization. Certainly care for the most fragile and vulnerable, but also care for the institution, care for the church in my specific way, my specific position, if you wish, care for the environment and material things, care for maintaining a spirit of collaboration, care for promoting the subjective dimensional work, according to Laborem Exercens, care for the mission shared within a certain organization. This epistemological paradigm centered on care has among its configuring elements, first and foremost, the recognition that the human being is fundamentally a dependent being, a being in relation and dependent on others, and to the other, capital O, in openness to transcendence. This should lead each one of us to recognize more consciously that throughout our human existence, we are all at different times in our lives, both subjects and objects of care. Care, therefore, should be pursued as a practice and a value, as a response to the needs of the other, but also as an expression of that help which brings people closer to one another and fosters the moral growth of individuals beyond a mere sense of justice, both personally and communally. In fact, I would like to reiterate here that this ethical paradigm of care, understood as a practice and a value, finds a strong resonance in the current pontificate of Pope Francis, who openly supports a culture of care, we've heard it from him, permeating all of society, where the protection of the sphere of rights, which is essential, must be accompanied by the promotion of the sphere of friendship. The feminine orientation to care, nevertheless, cannot be enhanced in opposition to the more masculine orientation to justice. Social friendship cannot be founded upon polarization, which already, as we all know, dominates so many areas of our life in common. I believe a profound cultural change is needed for the feminine capacity for care to be recognized as a gift and promoted within social, political, economic, and juridical structures. In fact, social friendship cannot be built by women alone. It is only by entering a new category of relation, as Pope Benedict defines it in Caritas in Veritate, a relation based upon a new alliance, says Pope Francis, between men and women, that we can rebuild a renewed sense of reciprocity rooted in equal dignity and mutually enriching differences. And as a way of concluding this short keynote, in the past, because in many societies, the moral sentiment of care has been cultivated and largely restricted to the private or domestic sphere, the public domain has been more frequently dominated by the moral sentiment of justice. Today, as women assume more relevant leadership roles in the public sphere, in the economic, in the political realms, as well as within the church, I think they can offer a greater contribution in bridging and bringing together the moral sentiment of care with the moral sentiment of justice. Women in positions of leadership are called to manifest concretely those qualities that Pope Francis attributes to any leader, especially as we look at the future together. Putting the dignity of the person back at the center of any decision, being open to dialogue, cooperating in building peace as authentic mediators, he says. That is to say, retaining nothing for ourselves, but rather spending ourselves generously until we are consumed in service, knowing that in any type of organization, peace, collaboration, and synergy are always a shared gain. Both men and women are invited to reflect on and actively search for new ways to implement Pope Francis' exhortation. He's very clear: to speak to one another more, to listen to one another more, to get to know one another better, to love one another more, even within the church. In this perspective, sensitivity to care, necessary for all individuals without distinction, can become a catalyst for fraternity. It can strengthen a spirituality of global solidarity, as defined by Pope Francis. It can offer a possible answer to that crucial dilemma of modernity, which Bauman refers to as the choice between the competition of the individual and the solidarity of the human family, a crucial dilemma of modernity. And by witnessing in this way to the reality that all men and women not only can live together in a more collaborative way, but can also strive together for greater happiness. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sister Raffaella. Thank you very much for this keynote speech, for the importance of what you highlighted. Just few words to focus on how Catholic social teaching is clear in stating that men and women share the same equal dignity, and to recall how women and men assume the common responsibility for the best of humanity. In your speech, I would like to really highlight the key word that you share with us: care. Care to be perceived as a practice and as a value. Care has the word really to be considered as a guide for our life. And the final point that I would like to highlight is also how promoting women's participation and leadership is not just an issue for women, but is something for women and men who are invited to reflect on and actively search for new ways to implement what Pope Francis is asking us and exhort us: speak to one another, listen to one another more, and get to know one another better, and to love one another more. Thank you very much, Sister Raffaella, and also thank you very much on behalf of our Secretary General, Aloysius John, who should be here to greet you and to thank you personally, but unfortunately he has some problems of connection. She's not at office, she's in Vienna for some meetings. So also on behalf of him, thank you very much. We are really grateful for your presence today here.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we continue with our program, and I'm pleased to give the floor to Sister Regina Ignazia Afla, Coordinator of Human Rights and Justice of Caritas Ghana, and reference persons for the Africa region for women's participation and promotion of their leadership. Sister Regina will give us and will share with us the African perspective about women participation and leadership, and also her witness and testimony for her special point of observation. Sister Regina, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Moira. Thank you for this great opportunity given to me to share a few thoughts on the topic, Women as Builders of Future, Working Together for Equality, Encounter and Renewal. I must start by saying that it is a widely held view, especially in Africa, that women, right from childhood, are gifted with that spirit to manage the home. Women create a perspective that brings competition and collaboration to organizations and teams. Despite the effort by Caritas Internationalis calling for women participation in leadership positions, the call is yet to be fully realized in Africa. In all probability, this absence is not due to lack of qualified and competent women, but of society's inability to recognize and reward the full potential of women. It is not simply a question of social class distinction, but of cultural tradition. It is in this light that the topic for discussion today, Women as Builders of Future, Working Together for Equality, Encounter, Renewal, is timely, challenging, and essential. The theme is in line with the Holy Father's call on the Church in the ongoing synodal process to take a deep reflection, listen to herself in a spirit of mutual trust, and to be sensitive to her culture and context, resources and constraints. Women as builders of future implies an advocate for the investment in modification that supports the development of women within their fields by addressing issues of unconsciousness, bias, and enlisting the support of both women and men in developing solutions. The Bible refers to some women who were influential and effective as leaders. It speaks of Miriam as one of the first to pick up an instrument to lead in worship. Those can be found in Exodus 15:20. Also, the great leader Deborah, Judges 4 and 5. Another is Esther, a fearless leader who risks her own life to save the Jewish people. In the New Testament, the call for women as builders can definitely be traced to Jesus, who treated women with respect, acceptance, and empathy. Women were the first apostles to build community of believers through their proclamation. See the Samaritan woman in John. They were the first witnesses of the resurrection. Both the scripture and social teaching of the church underscore the need for women to be acknowledged as builders of the future, who work together for equality, encounter, and renewal. The following are some recommendations to the active involvement of women in the Confederation and in the church in general. Significant strides have been made by women in the past 100 years, but the aim has always been equal treatment. And it is my belief that as women, we have set the bar too low. We owe it to ourselves and future generation of young women and the youth to push beyond the concept that we can be as good to truly take our position as global leaders to build the future. Here are some recommendations. 1, disrupting the silence. Women need to break the silence. Gone were the days that women were seen as useful only in the kitchen. There have been some affirmative modifications in that state of women as compared to the past. Some women have acquired higher and professional education. Women are visible in and are doing better than men in some institutions considered male mainstays, such as security field. As women, we need to assert our dignity individually and collectively. 2, intense gender sensitization. Women need gender sensitization that both the male and female receive genetic factors from the father and mother. As people created in the image and likeness of God, they possess more of commonality than difference. This sensitization implies coming together as women to study, analyze, plan, and move into action. This will help in development of a self that moves beyond gender. 3, improving life skills and building solidarity. We need to encourage more women to acquire and enhance the attitude, knowledge, and skills to change our environment. We need to intensify the process of recognizing and networking from the local level and expand it to global level. 4, we need intervention directed at internal critiques and transformation of culture, ambience, and structures in the church. This include critique of self-change in gender stereotypes that persist in our churches. This will entail a concerted effort of women and men who have acquired critical knowledge in theological disciplines to carefully study the gender biases that persist in catechetical and theological sources and review them. B, critique of male-centered control culture to creating a gender-just knowledge ambience. Model gender-just structures. A conducive template is to be provided for all in the church to win over, persuade, and pressure others to share in this change. We also need interventions that are directed to the participation of women in the church and its structures. Bishops need to put in place an inclusive gender policy. The emphasis here is inclusive gender policy for their various archdioceses and dioceses. This policy should spell out the concrete time-bound measures, visions, and goals to promote gender justice. Again, bishops need to form women commissions in their archdioceses and dioceses and strengthen the commission where they exist with human and financial resources to play a monitoring role in this respect. In conclusion, I want to reiterate that leadership by women is vital to increase the pace of social transformation at home and in the workplace. In the 21st century, the essential qualities required to lead include the ability to collaborate, connect, empathize, and communicate. All these qualities are feminine in nature and can help build a more sustainable future. Women leaders are likely to provide an integrated view of work and family, resulting in an engaged and promising personal and professional future. Let all of us work for the inclusiveness of women in all spheres of life, especially in the religious spheres and in the Confederation in general. Thank all of you for listening to me, and let us continue to promote women in all areas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sister Regina. Thank you for having shared this perspective, a perspective from Africa, but is also a perspective that we can share for the church and the society around the world. Let me just highlight, starting from your final part, the importance of some really skills and capacities that are related to women, the ability to collaborate, communicate, the importance of empathy, the importance of communication and synergy, something that today in our society is key and is very important, has a contribution from women. And then just a call through some concrete suggestions and recommendations that you share with us. Break the silence to go beyond the obstacles that today we continue to see in our society. The importance of sensitization, the importance for women to come together, to analyze the situation, to study the situation, and to propose themselves some solutions and some indications to improve our society. The importance to improve skills and knowledge and to build solidarity. And last but not least, the key importance of a cultural transformation in the church and in the society. Thank you very much, Sister Regina. And now I will give the floor. I will pass to another region, another context, a different context. And we are pleased to have with us today Marina Osmonalieva, the Regional Director of Caritas Kyrgyzstan. Marina, the floor is yours. Thank you for your participation and for having accepted our invitation today.
Thank you very much. I feel privileged to be here with all of you and to have this opportunity to share my thoughts and my reflections. Caritas Kyrgyzstan is a very young organization and has a rather small team. We are only 5 staff members, and 3 of them are women. 7 years ago, the leaders of the Catholic Church in Kyrgyzstan believed in me and entrusted me with the development of Caritas Kyrgyzstan and supported me in implementing my ideas and vision of what challenges in society the church can respond to. And I'm very grateful for that. God created man and woman equal, but rewarded each of them with their own characteristics and gifts. I truly believe that women have a special ability to recognize the needs, to feel needs. In the period that I have worked in Caritas Kyrgyzstan, I have been fortunate to meet and work together with many women. And every time I think back on each one of them, I'm proud to be a part of the response to the challenges and problems we gave together, and how we dedicated ourselves to a common goal. For more than 5 years, Caritas Kyrgyzstan has been carrying out an educational project which allows students from public schools to prepare for university entrance free of charge, to get a profession in order to be a good specialist in the labor market and to have a decent job in the future. Education in public schools in our country is very low quality, and students from public schools have to attend extra classes with private tutors for a fee. Considering the high percentage of poverty in Kyrgyzstan, parents of girls prefer to give in marriage their daughters right after school and not to spend money on their education. In our project, girls get an opportunity to prepare for university for free. And in this case, when there is no need to pay, parents usually allows their daughters to go to university, if it will be possible to get a scholarship and study further for free. I'm very happy when I see girls trying to study so that in the future they can work, be more independent and make decisions by themselves, raise a career, and be involved in life of their community, to be an important part for the future of their country. I strongly believe that women's leadership comes from girls like this. In Central Asia, we live in a rather patriarchal society with strict rules and gender bias, which strongly affect women and their demonstration of any initiative and activity. But even under these conditions, women show their potential and strength of spirit in the struggle for the freedom of who to be and what to do. Living in Kyrgyzstan, every time I see a woman who holds any authority, has power, and makes decisions on which many things and people depend, I immediately imagine the incredibly difficult path that this woman has traveled. I'm sure that this path was full of difficult moments when she was exposed to injustice and discrimination, unfair competition, experienced the strongest pressure from men and the traditional male world. And every time I see such women, I'm inspired, motivated, and want to act and to encourage other women and men who support the idea of women's leadership, to act for the better world we all must to build. I want to encourage all who have power in the church and in our organizations and responsibility on high decision-making positions not to be afraid to give women more responsibility, more entrust them with important tasks and roles, to give them opportunities to grow in their careers, to perform themselves and to realize their potential, which often has no freedom, unfortunately, to go out. I also want to encourage all women to take an active role and not to be afraid to take responsibility, not be afraid to make decisions, and not be afraid to declare that they are deserving, to be decision makers, to have authority, and to use it wisely. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Marina, for having shared your testimony and also your personal experience and your encouragement to all women. I liked when you shared the importance and your experience to work together with other women for a common goal. And also the example of the educational project in Kyrgyzstan, when there are opportunities offered to girls to grow up as women and as professionals. And so to concretize and to contribute their participation to the society and to contribute for a better society and contribute to the decision making. Thank you also for having shared with us the challenges that there are currently in your context, in your society, but also your final encouragement to all women and all girls to not be afraid to take the opportunity to contribute to the society, and your encouragement to all women to play an active role, not be afraid to speak, not to be afraid to participate, not to be afraid to give their contribution. Thank you very much, Marina, for having shared your experience, your great experience in Kyrgyzstan. And now, as I promised since the beginning, we are going to present the results of 2 surveys that we have conducted in the last month. After sharing and a discussion with the Caritas Internationalis Women's Committee, we decided to share 2 surveys with all members of our confederation. The first survey is based on the participation of women in our Caritas member organization at national, diocesan, regional, and global level. So what is the situation, the current situation of the women participation in our Caritas structure? We will have a first overview today presented by my colleague Stephanie McGillivray, and then we will have a full report. This overview will present the result at global level and also some windows regarding the regional perspective and regional results. When we analyze first the results of this survey, in the first moment, for some results, we were also a bit surprised of that, but then also we are aware that we have still challenges to be addressed in front of us. And also we are working in order to address those challenges and to really design the best way forward. The second survey is more concerning the feeling that women and men have in the Confederation regarding the participation of women, regarding the policies and systems that we have in our network to allow women to contribute to our diocesan, national, regional, and global structure. The flexibility that we have, the systems that we have. So it is a really first analysis of this survey. This survey, I tell since now, will be reopened in order to have more participation from staff of the member organization, and so to have a more realistic picture. But today, we would like to share with you the first overview. For that reason, I'm giving the floor to my colleague Stephanie for this short presentation. She will share also with you a PowerPoint, and this PowerPoint will be also available in the next few days in our Baobab platform. Thank you, Steph. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Moira, and thank you to all of our speakers so far. With each of these events, I continue to be inspired and really motivated by your testimonies and your words and your encouragement. So thank you. As Moira said, we have conducted 2 surveys. The first gathering quantitative data and the second gathering qualitative data. I will jump straight into the results. And I'll give, just as Moira said, just a few highlights of what we've seen so far. So for the first survey, we received 110 responses out of a possible 162 member organizations. So the image that you're seeing shows the percentage of participation of member organizations from each region. As a whole, this reflects 68% of the Confederation. And while this is a good and significant number of responses, to get a full picture of women's leadership and participation at different levels in the Confederation, we hope that with future surveys, we will receive more responses. The second survey, which was for all employees and all staff at all levels in the Confederation, we received 107 responses from individuals across the 7 regions. So this is obviously a low number in comparison to the many thousands of staff working in Caritas across the Confederation. However, it is interesting, first of all, to note the spread of where those responses came from in the Confederation, and secondly, the levels from which they came within the organizations. So these statistics help us already to see where there are gaps and where in future we might need to do more targeted research in order to find out the reality for women in the Confederation. So the results that I'll show here in relation to the first survey relate just to the member organizations. As Moira said, we are gathering data for the regional secretariats and here from the General Secretariat, but for today we'll just focus on the member organizations themselves. And here I'm just going to show you the questions that we put in the first survey. So this had 7 questions, some of which, as you'll see, had a brief explanatory note in order to assist with clarifying terminology and certain definitions. So I will now just show the survey results by question, first according to the Confederation and then by region. So for the first 2 questions, about directors or secretary generals, we see the split here and by region. And for the second question about the board, and then by the regions. As we can clearly see, across the whole Confederation, women are consistently less present in the directorship and on the boards of our member organizations. While the directorship is measured by individuals, boards are by nature made up of a panel of individuals who are selected for their experience and ability to make decisions which will assist the member organizations. So it's also easier to create policies for boards, such as a gender balance quota. And this is a clear point on which in the future we can work actively with the regions and the member organizations in order to facilitate the creation of more opportunities for women at these senior levels. Moving on to the next 3 questions about the senior management across the Confederation. and in the regions? How many project managers are there in total and across the regions? And finally, looking at the numbers of staff of men who made up of men and women. As we can see, there is far more equality between men and women when it comes to senior management, project managers, and staff in member organizations across the Confederation. This experience and ability of both the men and women participating at these levels is crucial, not only to the Confederation's daily operations, but also to the fulfillment of its mission through the strategic formation of its priorities, about which the decisions are made at the higher governance levels. So again, we need to ask, why is women's experience and ability not reflected in the membership of the boards and governing bodies of the member organizations when they are so equally present and doing good work at senior management, project manager, and staff levels? Next, we'll move on to the diocesan Caritas directors across the whole Confederation and by region. This is a striking piece of data and calls for a deep reflection, especially on the relationship between Caritas and the local church leadership and episcopal conferences. Finally, question 7 was about maternity leave and flexible working policies. It gradually emerged through the comments and feedback that this question 7A wasn't always easy to understand, particularly regarding whether the member organizations were providing maternity leave, which is already legally required, or something more. By region, and then flexible working and by region. So these last two questions will require further analysis and perhaps going back to clarify with some of the members some of their questions and to find out exactly what is being provided and to see if there are any trends about the numbers of women present at the senior levels or not. So I hope that gives you a bit of a snapshot into the first survey, just about purely the numbers of women and the balance between women and men in our organization at different levels. So now we'll move on to the second survey, which was focused on women and men's experiences of leadership, equality, and participation in decision-making. This had 12 questions, as you can see, which were split into 4 sections, which were decision-making, personal and professional development, human resources, and equality. As we only closed this survey last Friday afternoon, we're yet to conduct a full analysis of the results. And as Moira said, we will be reopening this in order to gather some more responses. However, we have done a preliminary analysis, and as I flick between the results displayed in the following 2 graphs, where I've disaggregated the data by gender, I'd just like to draw your attention to the questions which I've highlighted here in bold. So number 5, 9, 10, and 11. For this survey, respondents were asked to answer on a strongly disagree to strongly agree 1 to 5 scale about their experiences in relation to these statements which are on the screen. So, and also just as a reminder, there were 66 responses from women and 41 responses from men. So if we look at question 5 here on the graph, this is men's responses, and we look at women's responses. So this is about opportunities for promotion. On the whole, as we see here, the majority of men gave a 4 rating, indicating quite strong agreement that there are opportunities for promotion, or they feel that there are opportunities for promotion. The results for women, as we see, are far more mixed, with a majority giving a 3 rating. While we didn't specify what the numbers in between 1 to 5 signified, it does indicate that either it's not known if there are opportunities, or that there was slight disagreement from the majority of female participants. Question 9, looking at men's responses, I am able to balance work and personal commitments in a satisfactory way. and women's. Here, it's interesting that women on the whole rated these 4 and 5. So on the whole, compared to men, felt more satisfactorily able to balance their work and personal commitments. This perhaps indicates a certain cultural attitude towards men in the workplace, where there are expectations for them to work long hours, or maybe even a lack of understanding that men also need to balance personal commitments with work. And finally, if we look at questions 10 and 11 together, which is, I have experienced gender discrimination in my organization, and I have experienced barriers to participation and or leadership in my organization. If we look at men's and women's responses, it's extremely reassuring that a majority of both men and women strongly disagree with these statements. However, of course, every experience of discrimination and barriers to leadership matters. And we do see that there are people who have responded saying that they do experience this in their organizations, and we can't neglect these responses. So further analysis will be done by region to determine any trends and any gaps and how we can address them. Then we also had a section for comments, and these sections for comments were really well utilized, which I'm grateful for because they give us a real insight into people's individual experiences. So as we look at each of the 4 themes, I'll just tell you a bit about some of the comments that we received. So on the whole, across the regions, there was a perceived openness to women's involvement in decision-making. However, some of the experiences showed that in some organizations, there's an underlying culture where this perceived openness isn't actually translated into a reality and often depends on the working culture and the leadership of the individual organizations. When it comes to personal and professional development, challenges seemed to be mostly founded on the lack of an organizational structure in which promotion can actually take place. So there aren't steps for people to take. It's a kind of a quite flat structure, which doesn't enable that sort of progress. And another issue that was highlighted a number of times is that there's a lack of time for training. So even though it's encouraged, it can't take place because there are other work pressures. The comments on human resources policies regarding flexibility were really positive, and it was often stated that such changes have actually made organizations more effective, especially for women, who are better able to juggle work and personal commitments, while also showing higher productivity. There were testimonies from all of the regions which witnessed a shift in culture towards promoting equality and inclusion of men and women at all levels of organizations. There were also some really interesting reflections on inequality, often particularly from the male participants in the survey, who a number of times suggested that it might be perhaps due to the way that girls and women are socialized, that they might feel inferior or have a reticence to put themselves forward for opportunities. Other men have commented on the need to deconstruct existing cultural norms, which they point out negatively affect both women and men in the workplace. These views show just how crucial it is to include both male and female perspectives when it comes to talking about gender equality and improving professional practices. Other comments described experiences of discrimination based not on gender, but rather because of someone's young age, which led to them being interpreted as inexperienced or unprofessional. And this reflects another area in which our Confederation is working to improve youth leadership and participation. We also had a general comments section, and a recurring theme in here was the need to form and develop solid partnerships with church leaders to support equality. So here you can see just some of the recommendations which came up a number of times. And I always think when there's repetition from across the whole world, all our different regions and organizations in all their different contexts, all recommending the same thing, I think it really we have to really listen to those requests and those recommendations. So I will just leave those up there on the screen for you to have a look at as I conclude. So I hope that this brief and rather quick overview has shown where there are achievements to be celebrated and also where there is still work to be done. As we said, we will be reopening the second survey, and I know that I can count on all of you in the Confederation to circulate the information and really encourage your colleagues to take part so that we can work together to ensure that our Confederation is as effective as possible in its mission of service to the poor. I know from the number of member organizations which responded to the survey, the comments received through the survey, and also to me personally, and through the testimonies that we have heard throughout this entire webinar series, where we've heard from men, women, lay people, clergy, religious, faith-based, and secular civil society organizations. I know that the Confederation is ready, willing, and committed to the promotion of women's leadership, equality, and participation in Caritas, in the church, and in society. And I look forward to continuing this work with you all together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. Thank you for this overview and also for the daily work that you are doing with the Confederation, with all member organizations and with the Women's Committee. I start from your last words, achievements and challenges. At any time when we have objective results of a survey, we can celebrate the achievements, of course. We have gone through, we have worked to promote participation and leadership of women, but there is still something important to do. So we have challenges in front of us, but we are also convinced that we can work on it and we can work together on it. This is the objective. This is what we are doing every day through this work and also through the service that each member of the staff and volunteers in each Caritas at all levels are doing everywhere across the Confederation. These surveys, as I said, and Stephanie has highlighted, is also a way to have a database for the Confederation, a database that will be useful also to measure the changes in the next future, what we can do and how we will what we can do different. And women, and also is a call to the leaders of our organizations in order to really be together to achieve these objectives. In the last slides that Stephanie shows, there are also some suggestions and recommendations coming from the Confederation, coming from the members, coming from women and men working every day in Caritas service, working every day in projects, in programs, in helping and supporting the poor, working with the poor. And it's important to see how there is more and more involvement of women decision-making, how there is need to still invest and invest more in capacity strengthening. But there is a fil rouge in the webinar today, but also I can say in the 4 webinars that we have organized and where we have shared a lot of testimonies and witnesses. The importance of a cultural change, the importance of transformation, the importance of working together for that. What we can get from these surveys is that we are all aware of this need, and we are all aware that we need to work together to get this cultural change and to transform this society. As I said since the beginning, this work that we are doing, and especially this initiative, was not something that we have built up in an isolated way. This initiative promoted by the Women's Committee, the Caritas Internationalis Women's Committee, is a cross-cutting initiative. This work is a work that concerns the operations, that concern the work that we are doing for the emergency response on the field and at coordination level, is a work that concerns and regards the work for advocacy that we are doing with local governments, national governments, and also at global level towards the global institutions. But it's also a work that concerns communication, raising awareness. So I'm happy today to share the comments and the final recommendations and remarks of this initiative and this webinar with my colleague, Marta Petrosillo, the Director of Communication of Caritas Internationalis. Thanks, Marta.
Thank you, Moira, on behalf of the Communication Department and Communication Unit especially. It was a pleasure to contribute to these initiatives. For Caritas Confederation, communication is mostly witness. And through these month-long initiatives, we really attended to many moments and valuable moments of witness. And also at the personal level, there was a learning process and a moment to listen to the many colleagues, how they express, they contribute to this path to equality and renewal in order to promote women leadership and participation. And I have to say, in the Caritas communicators community, the women presence is very strong, not only in our communication unit here at CI, when there are 4 female colleagues and 1 male colleague, but also in our CI Communications Committee and in many fora and working groups I participated. And as Sister Regina was pointed out before, definitely women have their way to communicate it, which reflects their value added. And I was struck by what she said about breaking the silence. And I strongly believe that we as communicators, not only women, but all the communicators, we have the duty to break this silence and to contribute to this path of renewal and bringing their women's stories and women experience at the general public and also within the Confederation. It's definitely one important one key step in order to contribute to this path of renewal. So it's us to thank you for this moment, and I would like also to take this opportunity to thank all my colleagues, female or not, that are nowadays testimonies from about the Ukrainian conflict. We heard about some of them during this webinar, and the work they are doing in testimonies, the stories, especially women's stories, because we know that almost the totality of refugees fleeing from Ukraine is made by women and children. So this testimony is it's very important, and as communicators, we are very happy that we can contribute. And once again, to you, Moira and Stephanie, thank you for this important moment of witnessing.
Thank you very much, Marta, for this reflection and also for the collaboration, the daily collaboration that we have to work on that topic. Before going towards the conclusions and give the floor to Marta Skretenberger, I would like just to point out some questions and comments that we received through the chat. First of all, as I said in the beginning of this webinar, we will share both the slides presented by Stephanie, but also a full report of the surveys. We will reopen the second survey, and this will be on the Baobab platform, but Stephanie will send another link to the surveys. So you will receive a Baobab notification with the survey number 2 for those who would like to participate in this second survey. If there are, on the other side, member organizations which have not yet participated in the first survey, we can take another 1 week, 10 days before concluding with the full report. So please share with us the results and the responses to the survey. There was another important comment regarding the importance and the need to sensitize leadership and top management on women leadership. This is one of the key points that I'm sure Marta will point out and will highlight for us, for our work. And there are already, and we are witnessing that, initiatives, not only at global level as these series of webinars, as the initiatives that we are promoting and announcing, but also there are important initiatives at regional level. I know that through Sis Regina and through the Caritas Africa Regional Secretariat, there is an ongoing organization for a regional webinar on women's empowerment. And also there was an important meeting together with the bishops in order to discuss and reflect together on this topic and how to promote more women participation and women leadership. And so these kind of initiatives, we have more and more these kind of initiatives. And so this is also an important sign that as a confederation, we are moving on. There is also another comment concerning other testimonies, other experiences, how to share testimonies and experiences from other member organizations from the Confederation. Stephanie, myself, and all of us, we are ready to receive these testimonies because this will be a way also to share through communication, through the stories and through the resources that we are going to produce in the next months according to our plan and our operational plan. So please share with us this. Stephanie will share also her mail address. So I saw, for example, the comment of Caritas Rwanda. Please, more testimonies we have, more we can reach our best practices and our experiences. Now, I give the floor to Marta. We started 10 minutes later, so no problem. We can keep the time. Marta, we are going to conclude this webinar, and I'm really pleased to give the floor to Marta Skretenberger, the chair of the Caritas Internationalis Women Committee, Secretary General of Caritas Norway. Marta, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Moira. Dear all, good afternoon. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to conclude the last webinar in a series of very inspiring webinars on the topic of women as builders of dialogue, hope, and solidarity. I will thank you, Moira and Stephanie, for your engagement and for the professional support you have been providing to the Caritas Women's Leadership Committee. Thank you all for joining us today, and thank you to our speakers, both today and all the previous webinars. Your testimonies are vital, as Moira was saying, to our work, and have clearly demonstrated women's role as builders of future in a world in which all people, men and women, work together in solidarity for equality, encounter, and renewal. The survey results are crucial for our work. They confirm that while there is good news to celebrate in some areas, there is still much progress to be made. We are coming to the end of the Caritas Celebrates Women Month. We now begin a new chapter to promote women's leadership and participation. We can now apply what we have learned. We will begin our work to identify key priorities and initiatives to create positive change in Caritas and in the community. I would like to focus on the three key themes as we reflect on women as builders of new humanity: equality, encounter, and renewal. These themes symbolize the journey as we work to promote women's leadership and participation in decision-making processes. Equality between men and women is the foundation for building a future in which development can be achieved for all people. Leadership and participation in decision-making should reflect this natural equality. The survey results show that there are several areas where we can work to promote equality and remove barriers. There are few women members in Caritas boards. The research also highlights the importance of flexible working policies and policies related to maternity and paternity leave. These topics are very important to me as a mother and as a board member. I have worked in leadership positions throughout almost all my career in Norway. When I had small children, my employers and the Norwegian welfare system were crucial in allowing me to combine these two roles. Removing structural barriers must be a priority to promote the leadership and participation of women. To give women an opportunity on equal footing with men will enrich the Confederation by bringing women voices, skills, knowledge, and capabilities into spaces where decisions are made. When reflecting on the research results on the diocesan directors of Caritas, this indicates that better communication and participation with the local church leadership, such as Episcopal conferences, could assist with the creation of more opportunities for women to leadership and participation in decision-making at the diocesan and parish level. It is crucial that men in Caritas also participate in this work. The Women's Leadership Committee is witnessing the fruits of diversity in leadership and decision-making. Our members include men and women, lay people, clergy, and religious. The full participation of all the people of God is crucial to build a future based on equality between men and women. Encounter is essential to build a culture of equality in which we hear, value, and make all members of our societies visible, especially the poor, marginalized, vulnerable, and excluded. Caritas is working to achieve this. This Caritas Celebrates Women Month has facilitated encounter with women in the Confederation. Their contributions, challenges, and resilience have been recognized. The Confederation has been called to action to promote the participation, equality, and leadership of women. The two surveys which we have presented here today promote encounter by collecting the voices of all our members across the Confederation. The booklet explores equality by showing how theology and Catholic social teaching support women's leadership and participation in decision making. Stories, testimonies, and good practices from the Confederation support Encounter. We hope that the booklet will be used as a tool for learning and dialogue within the Confederation and between external stakeholders. This webinar series has clearly shown how women's contributions to the Confederation are crucial to showing why their participation in leadership and decision-making at all levels in the Confederation is vital for the integral development of all of humanity. Finally, I would like to briefly touch on the concept of renewal. In one sense, renewal is our end goal, but I think it may be better to think of renewal as a journey and an ongoing process in which we need continuously and actively engage. This is because renewal is linked to the need to read the signs of time in which we are living. Indeed, Caritas' mission to serve the poor is only that we engage in reading the signs of the times. Importantly, this does not mean adapting our core mission or changing it to fit in with what is happening in society. Rather, it means knowing and understanding our mission and then finding new ways to fulfill that mission. In our work, this means ensuring that women and men can equally participate in and contribute to society to achieve the common purpose of the fundamental human development and prospering of each individual and all people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marta, for these final remarks, for your recommendations for our future work, and also for sharing your own experience, your own professional and personal life. But I would like just to quote you to say, this is to begin a new chapter and to apply what we have learned through our key words, the key words for our journey together: equality, encounter, and renewal. And the importance for all of us to read the signs of the time, to read them together and to look at the future, together. Thank you, Marta. Thank you all for your participation. Thank you to all speakers today and to all our speakers in the former webinars and the former initiatives as well. There will be new and other initiatives in the next future. We will keep you updated. My last words are for thanking again the members of the Caritas Internationalis Women's Committee, the co-chairs, Marta and Patricia. I know that she's online, she's with us this afternoon. Thank you to all colleagues of the Operations, Communications and Internal Services Department, and particularly to Enrico, who support and assist us during the whole initiative. And thank you to the interpreters and to all of you for having participated in these initiatives. Have all a good evening or a good afternoon or a good day across the Confederation. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye, Sister Regina.
Bye.